Welcome to MSP 1337. I'm your host, Chris Johnson, a show dedicated to cybersecurity challenges, solutions, a journey together, not alone. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of MSP 1337. I'm joined this week as we head into the new year with Charles Love of ShowTech Solution and Joshua Smith of Reliaquest. Welcome, guys.
Thanks.
So before we get started, Josh is traveling. So he is calling in from an advanced piece of technology called a cell phone. And quite honestly, I think it sounds just as good as the rest of us. So if you would like to take a poll at some point in the future and tell us how great his cell phone sounds, please do so. Josh, what kind of phone are you using?
It is an S20 Plus.
I don't even know what that sounds very fancy.
I think he made it. I think he made it
up. As my kids would say, Dad, I want to get the new iPhone Lite Plus SE X7. And I want one too.
I can read the SKU off the back. It'll make you feel better.
No. Okay, so we are literally only a few days away from 2023. And as I have been reflecting this week on 2022, I thought, why not get the two people that I have worked with the longest in my career to get on a podcast and talk about what are the things. Maybe we'll start with what's like one great thing for 2022 that you're happy with that made 2022 great for you, and then let's talk about the things that we kind of went through that are changing how we look forward into 2023. And so, Charles, I'll start with you, and then we'll go to Josh.
So first off, I'm going to say vendor consolidation. Wait, you said great. I apologize on that. Sorry. I had that the wrong way. No, just the
or did you?
Yeah, I don't know. We'll leave that be. Just some of the messaging getting out around the things that we've been yelling about for years, right? Some of the vendors are starting to really tighten their requirements a bit. Things that we've been saying all along, like two-factor, things like that. So I think that's been a big help where our agenda is being pushed by multiple people, if that kind of makes sense.
Right. So similar, the rowing in the same direction between solution providers and vendors is actually starting to visually take place.
It's we're in like
baby steps.
Yeah, we're still in the womb, but
we punch together.
Yeah, like Microsoft killing the unauthenticated email relay, right? Something we've been trying to talk about for years on how this is terrible. They shouldn't allow it. And now they're like, hey, guess what? Yeah, well, not yet. That's the next one. I'm waiting on that.
But
I will host a party when that gets turned on. I will host the damn party.
Candy for everybody.
That's it, man.
And if you want a larger chocolate bar, yeah, that'll cost you extra. Josh, what about you?
I don't have anything as pious as Charles, who was like, "Oh, the world is a better place." It's just for me, it was more of a personal year for me, kind of moving back more towards more hardcore security, vendor-wise. So that was kind of a big thing for me, so I could kind of enjoy the things that Charles was talking about. That was kind of it for me. It's very, very straightforward, very simple. It's a nice migration, kind of being back more core security, and I think I'm just less compliant, less that kind of in the weeds stuff, and more in the weeds of the stuff I like. That was kind of 2022 for me. It's a bit of a transition year, and I'm looking forward to keeping my butt where it's parked for a long while and enjoying that, feeling the fruits of that move.
Okay. Personal. I think I would probably echo the personal journey for me as well. It was the transition from being in a sort of security technology leadership role within a company that wanted absolutely nothing to do with changing the current mindset around the security. And so I don't want to say that they don't think security is important, because they do, but they want it to be at a done for them. And so when I came over to CompTIA, I can't even use that mindset anymore. And so having to say, I heard this quote the other day, and I think this is really really telling with sort of the role of a lot of us at CompTIA. I can make suggestions. You have to make decisions. And I thought that was a pretty good way to describe my new role. And to some degree, I think that was kind of a look back, and I'm really, to some degree, the responsibility and the urgency of like doing something within a company around security has been somewhat taken off my plate. But at the same time, and you guys have all been there, it can be a huge burden when you don't see the fruits of the labor happen for those around you to make those decisions. So I liked both of your wins. So 2023, I don't want to do the look ahead quite yet, but in the 2022 look back, what is the fundamentally worst thing in our industry that you think has happened? And you guys can have the same one. That's not outlandishly impossible here, but like, and I'll start with you, Josh. What's the worst 2022 in our industry? What's the worst thing that you think happened?
First thing that happened. Oof, that's
Or something
You're getting morbid
significant that
pretty
had
quick.
negative impact to the industry.
I'll do a couple light things. I'll do just I don't want to go definitely for the throat immediately, but I think that anytime, so let's take LastPass for example, right? They're not the only password manager that's ever had trouble. I mean, Okta just got into trouble as well.
Sure.
I'm just worried that people will see that and then think, oh, well, it doesn't matter because if they're going to get breached, why use a password manager? Why use why use push 2FA? Why use all this technology? Because it's just going to get hacked, right? And that wasn't the case. Right? For the most part, we know that everyone's password vaults are triple redundantly protected. Even LastPass can't get into them. So we know that password managers are still the way to go. So my concern was that the bad guys are shifting focus to start to undermine some of the security moves that, as Charles said, we've all been sort of moving towards. And I feel like maybe the bad guys are trying to undermine that, so people maybe give up hope, don't put in that extra effort to secure things. So I feel like the bad guys are getting a little bit more tactical in how they attack the underlying trust in the security ecosystem. Maybe that's a tinfoil hat moment. Maybe they just got lucky, right? Maybe it's just a lull. I don't know. But just that kind of thing. I try to think of whenever I hear something in the news, I try to ask like why twice. Why did that happen? Why were they looking for that, or why did they do that? And I try to read the tea leaves sometimes to try to get a deeper understanding of what are kind of the tides. What's in play? What's really going on in our industry, in the industry at large, being the security, the cybersecurity of every single individual that we interact with and don't interact with.
So just to ask a follow-up question on that.
Yeah.
So that makes me think about going back a few years when we had the Target incident where I think it was HVAC. I mean, it's starting to fade into distant memory, but what happened was still pretty substantial. And it's interesting because in that particular case, I don't think really that people stopped shopping at Target the next day because it was a convenience that would have been interrupted. And I think to what you're describing now is similar, but it's the opposite, right? So like nobody says, hey, using 2FA or using some of the technologies that have had issue just in 2022 even, those weren't things we wanted to implement because those took away convenience and some of the efficiencies. So now giving us a reason to not do it, that's a whole lot easier. If is that fair?
Yeah, and that's exactly it. Like, it's an excuse. It gives users an excuse. Like, oh, Okta got hacked. I don't think we should have to, do the push authentication every time I time out every couple hours. Because I agree. Man, having to answer the Okta push every couple hours when my web app times out, it's a little annoying. But I understand it's for the greater good. Just like having to take your keys out to unlock something as opposed to just leaving everything in the world unlocked, right? That's an inconvenience. But it's for a reason.
So
sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, so Josh's negative for 2022 was excuses. And instead of saying like, I'm not going to use Okta or LastPass, I will use a different one. It's why use any at all? Because if one's broken, they're all broken.
Yeah. I think it's a tiny little crack. It's not a big one, right? It's not a huge crack, I think, but it's tiny. And I'm just worried of that it could just kind of weaken the integrity of users' trust in security tools and security platforms. The security ecosystem, we're starting to wrap around them because it comes at a bit of inconvenience, but that's the price you pay for security.
Fair. So excuses and inconveniences are 2022 for Josh. What do you got, Charles?
You know, it can kind of go kind of all over the place, but we talked about it on a previous podcast where we give customers this amazing weapon called a computer, and we don't educate them on how to properly use it, right?
Right here.
So,
good luck.
yeah, it's just, you know, we kind of referenced the AR-15 or whatever it was.
Yeah.
Like, you know, here's the thing, good luck. If you need ammo, come see me, right? That kind of stuff. But people can get into a lot of trouble with computers, right? Especially ones who don't know.
Right.
And I think one of the negative things is just passing it off, like, oh, you know, she just doesn't know, or, you know, she's not gonna learn or anything like that. And the problem here is we allow it, right? We allow it. So we're kind of creating our own drama for down the road. We're just literally kicking the can. So allowing, I don't want to say laziness, but
Complacency.
yeah, allowing complacency kind of to take over and run the ship is big. And
is that new? I don't feel like that's new in 2022, but I think if I understand you, like 2022 has elevated that being a real problem. Like it's no longer like peripheral. As an organization, I handed somebody their new laptop, you know, hands off, they should be able to figure it out because they got hired. So they obviously know how to, you know, find the power button, which, you know, a Mac doesn't even have it anymore.
Well, like even, you know, and I think what has kind of spawned all this is all the insurance companies waking up going, wait a minute, you mean that document we made 7 years ago no longer applies?
Sure.
Right. So now we've seen these insurance forms where they used to be 5 questions and now they're 5 to 10 pages.
5 to 10 times the 5 questions.
Yeah. And customers don't take it serious. I sit here aggravated on these calls, like, no, this is important. You know, making Josh approve his Okta to verify he's still there, even though he doesn't want it and he's asked me to remove it. I'm joking, but you know what I mean? It's the same damn thing. I want this two-factor thing. Yeah, I want this two-factor thing ripped off my account. No.
Yeah.
No, but you know what? The MSP down the road will totally do it for you. But I sure heck are not.
Man, you bleeped yourself out. That's pretty cool. I don't even need AI to do it.
Caught myself on that. Sorry about that.
So I actually
actually, Chris, roll back real quick to when you're telling Charles, you know, Charles, like, you know, we're Prometheus here, right? You've given fire to the unwashed masses, and now they're burning down the town, right? Saying that it's nothing really new, but I think that maybe why it might be top of Charles' mind is because of this paradigm shift of work from home has become, like, you know, in a matter of months, really entire organizations, entire enterprises had to shift from you're on the corporate computer, on the corporate network, behind the corporate firewall, on the corporate circuit, right?
Sure.
To everyone scrambling to now you're on your own home computer, on your own circuit, with Lord knows what installed on it, with Lord knows what else is on your network. Oh, but we're going to just open up a corporate VPN. Right.
Yes,
so I think maybe all that damage that we've seen is because of that acceleration of moving into an untrusted environment when corporations hadn't gotten around to implementing zero trust. Right. So I just wanted to inject that because I think that's probably why Charles Suppleline and why it's different now than maybe, you know, 5 years ago.
I feel very judged right now. I feel like you're saying that because I installed Huawei cameras in my home office and they're on the same VLAN as my corporate computer, that somehow is a negative. And don't tell me I need to split out my VLANs, because that would require me to log into my firewall and I'd have to go downstairs and look on the back of my firewall to see what the password is.
I mean, that's even if your ISP's shoddy modem could even support you.
Yeah, I digress. I think you're spot on. I was gonna kind of on what Charles had started talking about with regards to insurance was actually my, like, for me, I think is one of the biggest negatives we're seeing, and not because of the questionnaire per se. It's the perception that our industry is feeling more than the reality is that I can't get insurance anymore. So why should I even try? Or the insurance is going to be X cost. Why should I get it? I'm going to have bad things happen anyways. What's the point? And I think when like Lloyd's of London made kind of the big statement that they did, that they were no longer going to do cybersecurity type insurance, everybody just kind of assumed that that meant that they couldn't get it anymore, or why try getting it? It's going to be so expensive. And I think that's doing a whole lot of damage in our industry, because at the end of the day, you're not getting insurance to, like, hey, don't worry, we can buy a new house. Don't worry, we can buy a new car. That's not the premise of why cybersecurity insurance exists. And that myth that is associated with it has to change as we go into 23. That was my, like, just drives me nuts when I hear someone say, yeah, but the cost is 5 times what I spent before. And it's like, yeah, you barely spent anything before, and now it actually costs money.
Well, and let me give you on the same thing, because it's kind of important to know. Most of the time, a customer's going to send me the letter and say, "Hey, I've gone ahead and filled it out."
Yeah,
Say, "Yes, I see that you've marked yes on everything." And you actually need to mark no on everything, right? But the one thing that has always irked me with these questionnaires, there's no validation,
sure.
right? I can say yes on everything. If I'm doing
there's a validation, Charles. It's when you go to try to collect the money, and they
that's
go,
fine.
"Oh, do you have this? No, we don't. Okay, denied." Which is almost like why I feel like if you're having trouble getting customers to believe in it, do a tabletop exercise with their insurance provider and see how far they get before the insurance company goes, "Yeah, no, we would deny you."
Yeah, I mean, like, I can't go see my normal doctor or like a specialist if my doctor doesn't validate the damn thing first, right? And even so, let's use CompTIA, right? It back when I got my trust mark, right? Some person had to, like, check my work, not just take me on my word.
Right.
Like, they wanted a screenshot of, like, show me a copy of your contract. Here it is. So when you say you have 2-factor on, show me a screenshot of what it looks like. Right? Just because you named your cat 2-factor doesn't mean you can say you have 2-factor.
Well,
There's self-attestation though, all over the place, isn't there, Chris?
so we could go we could go down a rabbit hole on insurance questionnaires and some and the like.
I get it.
But I think you're not wrong. It's less about not validating the questionnaire. That's important. I think that's definitely coming. The new trust mark, a lot of that's coming. What I think is the bigger problem is that the assumption is I'm going to answer questions, whether it's insurance or otherwise, when it comes to cybersecurity, with the yes is like, I have 2-factor authentication on that one machine we do QuickBooks on. So I'm going to put yes as my answer. When the question actually says, do you have it on everything that you possibly can? And quite honestly, to say that we need to change the wording to say this means all systems doesn't change how the individual who's filling out this questionnaire is going to answer it, because the reality is, in their mind, the yes is insurance, no is no insurance. And that's not what the questionnaires are today. And that's the part that's really problematic, which obviously it's changing. We're going to see better questionnaires. We're going to see more actuary data that says, hey, we know based on what we've seen in the industry and how things are being implemented to give real data back to here. We've lowered the number of incidents that are happening across the same industry, but we're not there today. And so I think our job, unfortunately, is still, how do you educate someone who believes that they are capable of answering a questionnaire in a space that they hired you, the third party, to provide the services that satisfy, say, those questions in there. So what would make them think that they could now answer those questions definitively, having not brought you into the equation in the first place?
And to go back to the original question you asked, this is part of why I say it's kind of a hot mess, because don't worry, we have cyber insurance.
Right.
Yes, but it's not going to cover anything, right? And we're going to go through all this drama to so I get to do the "I told you so" dance for you to then go after me because I didn't document the "I told you so" dance, right?
Right.
So it's I'm not saying it's a false sense of security, but it kind of is. Like let's put it this way: customer goes, "Hey, can you answer these questions for me?" And I give them answers, and they don't like those answers, so they change the answers. I have no way of knowing they've changed the answer, right? I don't know what the heck they're submitting, so it's a kick the can down the line thing. So I think next year, hopefully, as an industry, or maybe the year after, we get more into that validation. We get back into like a um when I help GCC customers, I have to do all these crazy prove this, prove you have a login banner, prove you have a lock on the door. Here's a picture of me with my lock. That kind of stuff. Yeah, and I've done that. But there's like, do you have 2FA and everything? Yep. And then next question, what's 2FA?
Yeah. And is that TO or
Yeah.
the number 2? So we've got a few minutes left. I want to ask a question that I think should be on billboards because it was so prevalent in 2022. And that's this idea around compliance versus security. I think solution providers, by and large, when they work with their clients, it's all about how do we make their environment more secure. In some cases, they're coming to us with this demand. I have to comply with insurance questionnaire. I have to comply with healthcare, whatever it is. And you're challenged with, how do we do this? How do we solve the security problem while at the same time allowing them to check their boxes? It's this crazy balancing act. In my humble opinion, I feel like 2022 has just blown it completely out of proportion, where you're almost at opposite ends of a spectrum. Solution providers like, my job is to provide these IT services that includes a security stack. And on the other side of it is the client going, unless I'm checking a box for complying with X, I don't care. Is that a fair?
Yeah, yes and no. Like, I can never help a customer stay compliant, right? Because I can't be there. You know what I mean? Like, it just on, here's the 1,000 screen, what do they call them? The goofy things everyone pulls off their monitors.
The privacy screens?
The privacy screens, right? So, we have one customer that says, yes, we have privacy screens. They're in a box in the storage room, right? But as you walk through, they have them. They check the box. They're just not installed.
Sure.
Right? But it's things like that. Like, I can give it to them. I can equip it to them. I can teach them how to put it on, but I can't maintain they're going to stick, the moment I walk away, are they pulling it off?
Yeah, I think that comes back to intentionality. Like, if you're being asked to help them satisfy something that will make them more secure, and all they care about is checking the box, that's probably not a very good client. I was coming at it more from the standpoint of, I think that a lot of the industry today still believes that compliance is security, instead of where I think the industry on the IT side of it, like the MSP side of it, has said, I know what security is. I may not know what compliance is.
100%. We can keep you secure, but we can't necessarily keep you compliant. That's kind of part on you.
That's my, and I just wanted to throw that out there.
Or we can keep you compliant, and it doesn't mean you're going to be secure, right? I think of compliance as minimum wage and security as a living wage, right? Just because you're compliant doesn't mean you're secure.
I like that, minimum wage versus living wage. So Josh, to sort of add to that, the reason I brought this up is whether it's an insurance questionnaire, it's the new trust mark. You look at all the changes that have happened recently, and a lot of the frameworks that are out there. The frameworks are actually targeting how to do things more securely. They've added prescriptive items in that used to be largely full of ambiguity. And my thought process is, as we go to close this out, what are the things loosely is the term, whether they're tactile or something you can touch versus it's virtual, is to think about, what are one or two things that, as an industry providing these services to the masses, where should we focus that energy? Because I think one of them that comes to mind for me is obviously education, but we can make the stand, right? Like this seems like the fight that we need to have going into 2023. We have to stand our ground, hold the line, if you will, and actually push forward into 2023, because if we don't do it, who's going to, along the lines of compliance versus security?
Yeah, I think the one thing that I pulled from my own talk that I did recently with my team at Reliaquest was that we need to move more towards speaking in business language, right? You know, you talk to the CISO, you say one thing, you talk to the board, the CEO, the CFO, you speak a different language. So trying to find that commonality between them, and I really think that comes back to being more focused on risk-based metrics, risk-based outcomes, right? So really kind of taking use cases that everyone can understand, right? And then explaining, where we are today and where we want to be tomorrow, how we're going to get there, what's the budget we need to get there, what's the cooperation we need to get there. Because a lot of times the CISO's out on an island on his own, and if anything goes wrong, right, they just fire the CISO.
Yeah, I was gonna say, time for a new CISO.
Right? Yeah, time for a new CISO. They're the ones that set the password to password 123, right? They're usually the sacrificial lamb. So if we can help those CISOs get more kind of access to the board by helping them speak to what the board and what the C-suite understands, again, risk, right? I think elevating them elevates the entire security platform, right?
Right.
Sorry, I had to point out a cop here.
So Josh, is that
that's the risk right there.
Is your session that you had, I was on LinkedIn Live, is that out there still?
Yeah. It's I think it's recorded. We tried this live thing for the first time. It was pretty cool. So I think if you go to my profile, it should be up there somewhere. If not, hit me up and I'll repost it.
Yeah.
It talks about how we can be better linguists, right? How we can speak to business better. To answer that exact question of how can we make sure we're all rowing in the right direction.
And you weren't bleeped out. I was actually surprised. You used the word risk in a sentence and it didn't auto bleep you out. I think I was actually thinking about that before you said it. Like, we don't like to talk about risk with the client, but if we don't start talking about risk, then all the stuff we talked about on this entire show today, or a lot of the shows actually, is all for naught, because it comes back to what's important to your business. If you're going to make your decision based on checking boxes, your risk is pretty high. If you're going to make decisions based on what, Charles as a solution provider is recommending and telling you that you need to do, that's making decisions around how do I reduce some of that risk. So I like it. I like the risk one. Charles, what do you got? That's a really good one, Charles. I hadn't really thought about the fill in the blank. Go.
Speechless. He's speechless.
Yeah. I was trying to think on where to go with that. You two kind of nailed it on the head. It's just there's a lot of things we need to get better at, right? On both sides of defense, right? On the vendor side, well, I guess all three. On the customer side, on our side, and on the vendor side.
Collectively, we have to raise the bar on the educational components to how we do a better job with security, and we have to take ownership on all three sides of that triangle.
Yeah, but it gets to be information overload, right? I can only have so many meetings with the client before they're like, you know what? Let's just kind of slow these down, right? But the customer also has to want it, right? And we have a decent amount that, like, they don't cover cyber liability yet. I say yet. And I can't make them,
Right.
I can only educate them that you kind of need it or else you're on the hook, right? And I know in their brain, it's like, well, we'll just go after you, right? And
yes, that's what we all want to hear.
Yeah.
My terms of service are amazing. I'm my liability is so limited. You won't even be able to sneeze and hit me with that haiku.
Exactly. Yeah, there's just a lot of things that we really need to work on, and I think it all kind of comes off of the questionnaire as like a big key for me.
All right, so the last question as we close this out, and I'll start with you, Charles. What's one thing you're hoping to see happen in 2023?
Microsoft forces two-factor.
Amen. Josh?
Oh, so many things. So bright-eyed.
I just want you to have one.
Optimistic. I know. I want all the things. I want them all.
Don't let him sit on Santa's lap.
Santa, I want more wishes. That's what I want. No, I guess it really comes down to that maybe the realization that what Lloyd's is doing, what the insurance brokers are doing, is going to start to sink in to corporate boards, and then they realize that they have to take cybersecurity as serious as they take finance.
Oh,
right? Because, financially you can get audited, and what will happen to you security-wise, right? We're seeing more and more stuff around state-required privacy rules, right? And that could feed into, oh, you need to have these certain things in place, these certain security controls. So as we're starting to create laws a bit more to force the hand of organizations to realize that security is as important as their finance department, I'm hoping that it'll be less resistance and more like, okay, fine, we'll do it. So I'm hoping the security will continue to make inroads, but start to gain more eyeballs of boards, of C-levels, of folks that can make that, support those initiatives with budget. That's my biggest thing.
man, I'm not even going to try to say I have one. I will tell you that my hope for 2023 is that the adoption on the new CompTIA cybersecurity trust mark is through the roof. I think it will be based on the evidence that has been seen. So that seems like I shouldn't necessarily throw out hope on that one. So my hope is that we would get more of our vendors leaning in to the solution provider rather than going direct to the client. If we can get more of that, I think that would be a big win. That's my win. That's the one I'll use. So guys, I really appreciate it. If I don't talk to you, have a happy new year. For those of you listening, happy new year and have a great week. If you're still working this week, don't work too hard, stay warm, and we'll see you on the flip side. 2023, here we come.
You there?